There we go.
Awesome. Sorry for the technical delays, everyone. We just have a new officer join our team, Noah, who is, as you can see on the agenda, Sergeant at Arms, or SAA for short. So essentially that role, Noah, you can explain it more or whichever, but it's kind of just setting things up. So this is like our kickstart into making that transition for him.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Noah, the new SAA. So let's see, everyone has the recording privileges, and I guess, can we get someone to, what's next? Help me out. You're supposed to read something.
Mission statement.
We'll go ahead and do that when we officially start the meeting, Noah, but yeah, that's correct. The mission statement. We're gonna give it just a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Should we go ahead and assign the reporter roles?
Yes, yeah, Trisha, if you wanna lead explaining how the format of our meeting works and go ahead and see if someone can fill timer and grammarian, that'd be great.
Sure. So to any of our guests here today, thank you for joining us to our Toastmasters meeting. As you can see on the agenda, we have 3 sections to our meeting. The first, which is our prepared speeches. The second, our table topics, which are kind of getting your practice with impromptu speaking. And finally, our evaluation section, which is kind of looking over the meeting, seeing how we can improve as public speakers and as a club, because at the end of the day, that's what we are here for. Not to overstep the Toastmaster role, which is kind of the MC for the meeting. We do have 3 reporter roles. On the bottom, as you can see on the agenda, we have the grammarian, the counter, and timer. So Justin, thank you for filling in as counter. You'll be introducing, or at least explaining what you do as counter when we officially start the meeting. But we do have 2 open slots open, which are grammarian and timer. For the grammarian role, what you do for the meeting is using the word of the day, which is bellwether. You kind of keep track on whoever uses the word of the day. In addition to that, you go ahead and keep note of the grammar used throughout the meeting. So any particularly good grammar that you liked, or any grammar that could be improved on. So just noting those different uses of English language throughout the meeting. So that role is open. And then the third reporter role that is also open is the timer. So that's just helping us keep track on time. I think for our speeches, we have 5 to 7 limit time. Let's see, the timer role might be a little bit difficult to kind of cover if you haven't been to a Toastmaster meeting. So I can go ahead and cover that role. Kind of doing things a little bit backwards here, but essentially as a timer, as keeping track of the time, speeches. In the chat, I will be typing when I have, or when whoever is speaking reaches the minimum time. So like, for example, the table topic section, which is the second section that anyone can participate in, has a 1 to 2 minute time limit. So when you're asked a question, you have at minimum 1 minute to respond. When you reach that mark, I will type in the chat 1 minute. When you reach the minimum halfway, or when you reach the halfway mark, the halfway mark of your time limit. So for, in this case, 1:30, I'll type it there. And when you reach the upper limit of your time, I'll go ahead and type the 2 minute warning there. There is a 30-second grace period, no matter which section you are a part of. So this will be the system of keeping track of time. So I can go ahead and cover the timer. Noah, if you can fill that in. Would anyone like to volunteer and be our grammarian for today?
I can give it a try, for sure.
Courtney, it's great to get your foot in the water and kind of to see what the club's about while participating. So thank you, appreciate it. But with that, it looks like all our role signups are good to go for today. And then Slate, are we good?
Did you already, I don't know if I missed it, did you already go over what the Grammarian does for Courtney?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have any questions, Courtney?
Yeah, so just making notes about the type of grammar that was used throughout the speeches and in responses as well, and should I be taking notes about who's speaking, or should I just be overall taking notes on overall grammar?
Yeah, I think the section that you can be a little bit more specific on is our first section with prepared speeches, so that we can give that individualized feedback to our speakers. But beyond that, it's really up to you. If you notice something super glaring that you just want to mention it to that person, you can note down their name. If you want to do an overall meeting, overall like grammar report, that's up to you as well. Really, it is how you make it, but essentially just keeping track of grammar. So it's definitely a great exercise in paying attention and like listening in to people.
Okay.
So.
But yeah, Courtney, so pretty much just that. You're looking for any really great uses of grammar, like really cool phrases, or any improper grammar, you know, obviously glaring, like just fragments, they didn't finish their sentence, or just improper phrases, they mess up. And second thing you do is we have a word of the day. I'll go ahead and say it real quick before the meeting starts. It's bellwether. It's a noun. It says one that takes the lead or initiative, or a leader or a trendsetter. So whenever someone, I'll go and start the meeting officially because I'll say this normally as Toastmaster, but whenever someone does that in our in-person meetings, we usually snap as a tradition, everyone in the room. So in our online setting though, if everyone goes down to the bottom, you should see something called reactions, and you can do the thumbs up emoji is what we do for when someone says the word of the day. But as Grammarian, just make a mark of who said it during the meeting. That's the second thing. But with that said, our Sergeant at Arms can officially start the meeting.
All right, this meeting has been officially started. I don't have the thing, but can we get someone to read out the mission statement? Anyone?
I can volunteer.
Okay.
We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and, can you scroll down a little bit, Noah?
Yes.
Sorry. In which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth.
Thank you. Next, we have Slate. I think you're supposed to do something. I'm not really sure.
Pass it off to me.
Okay.
And thank you, Noah, for welcoming me to the virtual stage. And I'm the president of UGA Toastmasters. And obviously right now we're meeting in an online setting, but normally UGA Toastmasters is a UGA club, and we do meet in person on campus. Oh, one more thing, Noah, you can go ahead and stop sharing the agenda for now.
Okay.
Trisha, if you could do me one favor while I'm talking about Toastmasters, see if you can share that in the chat somehow.
Okay.
Thanks. But so I'll talk about Toastmasters and how our meetings go for a few minutes, and then we'll begin our meeting. As Trisha mentioned before the meeting started, we follow a 3-section format. We have prepared speakers, and then that's essentially where, as the name suggests, we already had prepared speakers. They'll go up, give their speech. The typical time is 5 to 7 minutes, and it's on a variety of topics in our Pathways educational system that we can get into more after the meeting. And then our second section is table topics. That is our impromptu speeches that everyone can participate in, and it's only a 1 to 2 minute speech that you answer based on a prompt or question. And there's no pressure whatsoever. It's just to get you practice speaking. And our final section is evaluations. How that works is we have a general evaluator who evaluates the meeting as a whole. And then we also have specific evaluators for those that gave prepared speeches. And then we also have our reporters, which report throughout the meeting. And next, I'm just going to talk about Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a public speaking club, but it's much more than that. You gain public speaking through attending Toastmaster meetings, doing speeches, but you also gain leadership skills for various projects you can do here at Toastmasters, or joining a committee or an officer position. And third most important thing is it's all about fellowship. We are UGA Club. We also do have socials. We try and hold at least 1 or 2 per semester. We're trying to think of something maybe we could do even during the summer, but that's always more to come. And Trisha just posted the agenda if anyone would like to pull that up, keep yourself on track with the meeting. And someone will head each section. Like for example, for table topics, we have a table topics master, and she'll also go into detail how that goes, as well as our general evaluator will say how his section will go. So if you're a guest today, don't feel lost at all. Just enjoy the meeting. You'll see how it goes, and join us for another one. And I think that's it. Real quick, before we jump into our speakers, what I'll do is I'll call on our recorders, and they will tell us what their role is and what they'll be doing out for the meeting. So I'll go down the list. Let me start with Grammarian, which is held by our guest, Courtney, today. So Courtney, you could just unmute yourself and just talk a little bit about what you're doing today.
Okay, hi, so I'm Courtney, and I will be the grammarian today. So I will be listening to everyone's speeches and trying to just pick out any great uses of grammar, as well as looking out for the use of the word bellwether. And yeah, I look forward to trying it out today.
Great job, Courtney, thanks. And then on that note, before I continue with announcing the reporters, just some general Zoom etiquette. Make sure always, I think everyone's kind of aware of this, seems like everyone's already following this, but always mute yourself if you're not the one speaking, and make sure to unmute yourself when it's your turn to speak. And keep an eye on the chat, as we do use that for our timer role, as Trisha mentioned. For the one that's most pertinent for our guest, the table topic section, it's a 1 to 2 minute impromptu speech. So you really just want to hit that 1 minute mark. So we'll type in the chat 1 minute during your turn to speak, and you know you've hit it. And then we'll also let you know when it's hit 1:30 and 2 minutes. And at 2 minutes, that means you're done, or go and wrap it up. We actually vote on best table topic speaker and best speaker in our meetings. For today, there's only 1 speaker, so we're not going to do that, because obviously there's only 1 person. But for table topics, to be eligible for voting, you got to hit that 1 to 2:30 mark on your time of your speech. And continuing on from that, I will announce the next one, all counter, which is Justin today. Justin, can you tell us a little about your role?
Absolutely. So the all counter, basically what I'm in charge of doing is counting filler words. So any words that people use like or like, but just overuse of filler words. Also extremely long pauses, just monitoring those, and and letting people know if they have used any of those. So, and how many of them have been used. So that's my role.
That was a great job, Justin. Thank you for that. And our last one, timer, which today will be held by Trisha. Can you go ahead and really quickly just explain your role one more time?
Yes, so I'm just as a timer, I'm in charge of keeping track of time, as the role title suggests. I'll be sharing the time with everyone in the chat, whether you're a speaker, table topics, or an evaluator, so that you know when you've hit your minimum, when you've hit the middle mark, close to the end of your time limit, and when you've reached your time limit. And as always, there is a 30-second grace period when you go over time. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Trisha. And one other thing about sort of what we do here at Toastmasters, we're really big on clapping, which is very unfortunate for our online setting, because it's, like I just said, you want to be muted when you're not speaking. So you may have already noticed throughout the meeting, you can also use the other reaction, the clapping one, pretty much anytime someone's done speaking and they're leaving that virtual stage. That's really just something we're really into, kind of encourage engagement, just keep it going. With that said, we'll jump into our prepared section. Today we have Sourin. He's giving his 4th prepared speech in the pathway system. It's a level 1 project, and it's research and presenting project. He'll be talking about the final frontier. Sourin, you can begin.
Thank you, everybody. So what does the final frontier mean exactly? So we've heard this term used off and off and off again. So what I'm referring to when I mean the final frontier is I'm talking about space. The final frontier, the moon, the stars, the planets, everything, the things you see in video games, the things you see in the night sky, and how that is the next phase of humanity and where we need to be going. So if many of you watched the recent news, I believe a few days back or a week back, we saw the first launch by SpaceX sending the first astronauts from the United States. So this was a big push for us to try and get astronauts from US soil back into space since we started doing the space program. So the problem with trying to go back to space is we're always worried about costs. Many people are like, we have to worry about people here. We have to worry about exactly how we're spending money on Earth and all of these other issues. However, many people seem to neglect the many benefits you can find through space travel and or space exploration. Namely, for example, asteroid mining, actually. That's a growing industry that's been developing, and many companies are seeing the viability of mining for resources by using asteroids in place of regular mining. Regular mining harms ecosystems. You have to tear down forests and things like that in order to get the resource. But asteroid mining can be cheaper. It's as of now expensive, but in the long run, it could be cheaper and more sustainable for us. Another thing that we're looking forward to is sustainable living in outer space. So this is going into the idea of colonization of other planets and star systems, almost sci-fi like. So if you're a big fan of Star Trek or Star Wars, you can imagine yourself living on another planet, zooming through in light speed and things like that. But honestly, we're getting closer and closer to reality. With the newest Artemis program launched by NASA, they hope to be launching human-led missions to Mars within the 2020s, and I hope to see where this actually brings us. And I feel like going to Mars will be the very first step that we can take in order to visit other planets and to maybe colonize them. So Mars seems like the most ideal candidate for my research, mainly because of its better gravity and atmosphere. But other planets in our solar system are more unforgiving. For example, Venus, it's pretty hot there. In fact, the only probe that we sent there burned up on as soon as it touched the surface, and we only have a single photograph ever of the Venus surface. So you can really see that our solar system and everything around us are inhospitable, but we can make do with this and still manage to bring out something worthy. So what I mean by that is, for example, Jeff Bezos and his Blue Origin space company, they've been looking into ideas of satellite homes. So basically, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but basically it's like this rotating satellite that goes around the Earth and can provide habitation for many different people. And we could maybe try growing new crops there, see if that has any benefit on growing crops to increase our sustainable yields, our crop yields, and so forth. And I feel like that space will really allow us to enhance our productivity and to look beyond just the Earth. Because we often look insular when it comes to the future. Many people have a very dystopian view of the future. If you ask them what's going to happen in the future, everyone's like, oh, we're all going to die, humanity's going to end, or global warming, we're all going to die, the world's going to end. So we have all these pessimistic views. And I'm not saying pessimism is inherently wrong, and I'm not saying that the Earth isn't going to turn up into like a big ball of fire with global warming and all of this, but I'm simply stating that we have to be optimistic in all our cases, and we have to look forward to the future and see what we can do. We might not be living in these cybernetic decrepit cities here on Earth. Instead, we might be in the stars, you might be visiting planets, you might be chatting with your best bud who's living on Mars or something like that. We really have an endless, not even world of possibilities, a universe of possibilities, to be frank. And I feel like if we really put ourselves out there and utilize our proper resources, we can go past anything we've gone past in the past. Oh wait, yeah. But we can go basically as far as we can see and touch the farthest star that we desire to. And we can basically make our ancestors' dreams become a reality, the reality of touching the stars, and we can actually accomplish it within our generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sourin. Definitely tell you did some research about space and the final frontier. I also liked how it was very inspirational at the end. And right now, this is the time when I'm going to give you guys 45 seconds to 1 minute. You can give Sourin any feedback you have for him. This could be anything you liked, anything you'd like to recommend that he could improve on for his next speech. And the way you can do that in our online setting, because normally in our in-person, we have feedback slips that you can just hand in anonymously. So unfortunately right now, it would not be anonymous, but please feel free to leave feedback. In the Zoom chat, you can put it, should be defaulted to everyone. You can put it from everyone to Sourin, and then you can just type your feedback there. So I'll give you guys about a minute to do that. This would also be the time you could, if this was our last speaker, that you could vote for best speaker. But naturally, we only have one speaker today, so Sourin would be uncontested. All right, and Trisha, was our speaker Sourin in time today?
With a given 5 to 7 limit, Sourin, you reached 4 minutes and 39 seconds. So a little bit under, but I think our 30-second grace period only applies to after you reach the time limit. If you didn't reach the minimum, I think it would be a 15-second like early grace period, if that makes sense. So if you were just to reach the 4:45 and there was another speaker, then you would have qualified for voting.
Thank you for that, Trisha. So real quick before I move on to our second section of the meeting, some tips for if your prepared speech is a little short. Biggest tip always is make sure you practice so you know that the time of your speech, because then you practice multiple times, you can get a feel for how long your speech is, and just try and pick a point or two or an entirely new point that you can just develop farther, especially in a research speech. You could definitely just go over like something more intricate there. But overall, I like the topic, Sourin, and we'll move on to our table topic section. Today will be led by Tori, so it'll be at least her third time doing table topics, so I'm looking forward to it. And she'll tell you all about how it works, and she'll make sure to pick an experienced speaker first, not pick a guest. And welcome, Tori, to the virtual